Hello Werx fans, and welcome to News Around the World. Any news that is happening on the planet should hopefully come through here. Unfortunately this week there hasn't been a whole lot of earth-shaking news about model companies or the model industry per se. One bit of note is that this news program is going to be replacing the rewind section of the news program with a section called techniques. So instead of having an old kit that will rewind, we'll actually be showing a technique and how to do it and show it in full. So hope that will work more for the people watching. Unfortunately, there's just not a lot of old kits anymore that I have in my stash that's worth showing. So let's get on with it, and we'll move on to future kit releases. Hello Werx fans, and welcome to future kit releases for this week. And this week we've got a few things that are a little bit different than just plastic model kits. First up is a few of them from AK Interactive. First one is going to be a book on modern uniform camouflages, which are fairly difficult to paint on because they're in different layers and you have to do them in certain ways to make them look right instead of just being like a normal camouflage. So that book will come in quite handy for people doing figures. The next one is AK is also going to be doing a book on mud effects. They've done this in the past in some of their books, just sections on mud and debris, but this is actually going to be a whole book on just mud effects, which is going to be kind of nice to have it concise in one unit. So that'll be coming. AK is also doing a set of weathering pencils, and there are a few different sets they're coming out with. Some for rust, some for metals, things like that. They are also coming out with a super set that comes with one of each, which will be nice. These are going to be pretty handy. They're basically a watercolor pencil, and so you can actually thin them out with water and make a little bit of washes and streaking with them. These are going to come in real handy, not really a replacement for oils and so forth for streaking and streaking grime, but it's actually going to be a faster way to do it, and for people who don't want to invest in the oils and have the mess of that, it's going to be a lot easier, especially for youngsters. If you're on the road traveling and you want to build a model kit in your hotel room, say you're on a business trip and you just have nothing to do in the evening, pick up a local kit at a local hobby shop and bring some of these pencils with you, and you'll be able to weather away while you're actually in a hotel room without any mess or fuss. So kind of a neat idea coming out from them. Not a new concept in a watercolor pencil, but it's nice that they're doing actually weathering colors, so it'll be specifically for the model industry. So next up, Hasegawa is going to be coming out with a 1/72nd scale F4EJ Kai, or KAI, Japanese aircraft. They've done this aircraft before, but this one is going to be in anniversary markings, called the Black Phantom, for the 302nd Squadron. It's got the big eagle on the side. Looks pretty nice. Be quite the decal set for this one, even in 72nd. Hopefully they'll do that in 48th as well. Next is Ming is coming out with a B-24 model, but not one you would think. It's a Toon one in their Toon series, and that is a super deformed looking aircraft. They've done a few in the past, and this one is now going to be added to that. Ming is also coming out with a 1/35th scale Leopard or Leopard 2 A7 Plus. They already did an A7, which is in prototype production, but this is the Plus, which they actually went sort of backwards on this one to the A5 or A4, I'm sorry, with the flat sides. So it's a little bit different. It's also in the prototype stage, and they show it in combat markings on the box, but it's looking pretty nice, and it'll be kind of a nice addition to the Leopard collection. Next up is Mini Art. They do a ball tank. They've done a few of them, a what if type thing for quite a few years, And this new one is a ball tank in Soviet service with skis. So something a little different if you like what if stuff and want to get crazy with it. Might be kind of neat for just messing around with no rules, so you can paint it however you want, weather it how you want. Next up is Hasegawa is also going to do a, for the sci-fi fans, a SF3D, what they call a new spotter. And what this is it's with the old SF3D kits that they've had in the past. I did a review on the last issue of this news program on the Croat. This is also an old kit, but it's a reissue. Really nice. And it's part of the Machine and Krieger series. Shouldn't be too expensive, but it looks like a little droid that moves around. It's got like articulated arms and so forth on it. Very interesting, but they're re-releasing that, so sci-fi fans will be happy. It hasn't been out for a while. That is about it for new releases. So we are going to now move to new kit review. Okay, for this week's new kit review, we're going to do something a little different and include some other folks out there that do car models. What this is it's a release from Aoshima out of Japan, and it is a vehicle that is made by a company called Liberty Walk, or LB Works, and they are basically a conversion company. So they'll take your stock vehicle and turn it into a race car with all kinds of different fenders and all kinds of interesting stuff on it. So really neat looking kit, and I've already got some paint ordered for it, and I'm going to try something different. So let's take a look and see what we got. I figured if I'm going to do a car model, I might as well go all the way, so this has got all kinds of neat stuff. So this side just shows the model kit here on the side in a kind of a metallic brown copper color. Some color choices there. And same on the other side. So let's take a look and see what is inside the box. Okay, I opened the box and almost exploded. There were so many parts in it, the top just popped right off. So first thing we're going to look at is the instructions, which you can see are actually half in English, half in Japanese. The biggest thing on this is this part here, where it actually you have to cut the fenders off to fit the new fenders. So that'll be a little bit more advanced technique, but it'll be interesting to give it a try. Okay, and then they're actually on the first page, it's already showing decals, so that's kind of interesting. Can paint it whatever color you want, of course, but the decals do come in a dark color, so it's usually best to have it in a medium or light color. They're showing basically putting the disc brakes together and so forth on the first ones. Now this does not have any engine detail in it, but it does have a bunch of bottom detail. As you can see here, there's actually quite a bit of detail in the kit. The real cars had a skid plate over the engine detail and the transmission, so you wouldn't see anything anyways. There probably are aftermarket upgrades though if you want to go crazy with it. Rims and tires, they give you some really pretty nice ones, it looks like. Interior, it is a right-hand drive. Does not give you an option for left-hand drive. Okay. And interior, putting in some of the clear parts, and shows you basically painting the inside of the windshield there first. Looks like putting in some of the front end parts and putting on the big spoiler on the back and the new fenders on. Alright, and then it gives you a list of all the stuff and then what you don't use, since it is actually a conversion. Alright, let's see what's in there as well. Okay, in the first bag we have window masks, which is really nice. That'll be helpful. Also some, looks like tail light or side mirror masks. So the decals, which look excellent. I mean, they look beautiful. And has all the sponsors for the wheels and so forth there as well. And the clear parts, which are nice and clear, no distortion, no rubbing. And nice that they actually gave them their own bag pretty much. That way they didn't get damaged in any way. So we will look at the next bag of parts here. Okay, this one looks like it's got the new fenders that you put on for the Liberty Walk conversion and some side skirts. So this is basically one of the racks that has all the new parts on it. Here is the front end and front skid plate, part of the rear wing, part of the rear fascia there. Looking really nice. I mean, the molding is just exquisite. No flash, real clean. Okay, next up, looks like some more of the clear taillight systems. Here's the little lights themselves. Here's some outlines with the red. I say molded in clear red for you, so you don't have to paint that. And one of the hoods. And man, that looks really nice. All the louvers and stuff are actually open, so you don't have to cut those open or anything like that. So that's kind of nice. All right, let's see what is up next. Next is some of the chrome exhaust and some more clear parts. Wow, those are tiny. Like cow. Anyways, this would probably, what I will probably do is just strip this and then repaint it with some of my alclads to make it look more realistic instead of this chrome. Best thing I found to strip this chrome off safely is to use Purple Power. It is fairly non-toxic. You just would not handle it without gloves. But you can soak it in there overnight, and then in the morning just brush off the chrome. Most of it will fall off by itself. It's a little easier to use than like brake fluid and so forth. So, and it'll take chrome off, but it will keep the clear. Basically, the way they do the chrome is they put a clear coat over it and then the chrome, so that way it's super smooth when they do the chrome. The clear usually stays there, which is okay. I just leave it, and then I use the alclad right over it since it has a smooth base for you. If you want to get that clear off, I'm not sure exactly how, because the Purple Power does not take that off. I mean, without damaging the plastic. Okay, the next one here, we have some of the chrome headlight systems, which is a real complex piece. That's really nice. All chrome again. Now that I might keep chrome, because that actually would give a lot more reflection on underneath the glass. And then some glass actually pieces that are the headlight covers. And one of the other hoods, that's the simplified hood. A couple other pieces of rear view mirrors. And then we've got molded in black, the interior, which is quite incredible. I mean, even the little speaker grill is detailed out. Individual windshield wipers, rear view mirror, front intake for the oil cooler. So that's looking really nice. Steering wheel, again, no flash, everything's really super clean. If you really like cars, these Fujimi cars are quite the thing. Again, if you don't really care about it not having a motor. Okay, next one here has some of the inner pieces of the rim. There is actually the rim detail, that's kind of nice that those are separate. That way you can actually paint them separate and have these actually pieces, say silver and then the interior of the wheel black, whichever way you want to do it. It's really nice they did that separate. Real clean. Some bucket seats here, racing seats. These little things here in the back of the headrest should be open, so I have to drill those out to make them look more realistic. Backs of the seats. And looks like some more fascia. There's the radiator piece there. That's really nice. Nice grill pattern on that. Okay. moving right along. It's going to be quite the challenge with all these parts, but should go pretty quick. The main thing is going to be painting it as you go, because some of it you won't be able to get to afterwards. Be a big change from armor models. Okay, the next one, which is a fairly large bag of parts. And this one actually has the disc brakes, which you can drill out if you want to make them look really realistic, or get photo etched. The tires, which are very nice. They're actually conical shaped to make it look like that style where the wheels are actually pushing out. So that's going to be kind of interesting to build. Some more chrome parts, looks like door handles. There's the actual chassis itself. There you can see some of the exhaust system there. Some of the skid plates have all bolt detail in them. That's really cool. Haven't seen anything that's slide molded yet. I mean, there's multi-level molding, but nothing that's slide molded yet. So, moving on to the next one. And there's some of the exhaust system again that's not chromed, which is nice. That way I can just go straight to doing it myself. Okay, the next bag has been torn open here. Okay. Have a few more chrome headlight system pieces, I guess for the different versions. And then, oh, it does give you a left-hand and right-hand drive. That's interesting. They give you two chassis, and then there's the left-hand drive, and there is the right-hand drive. So you can actually do whichever way you want. That's kind of neat. A lot of models don't do that, and sometimes you want to change that yourself. And this kit makes it so you can do that. Okay, last piece is the body itself. Super clean. Looks like the scribe lines are nice and thin and deep. I mean, that's really sharp. They're not really soft molded, which a lot of car models are, and that's kind of annoying because it doesn't look very realistic. All that molded detail there. This actually is slide molded because of all the different levels it looks like. But wow, that's looking really sharp. No flash, real clean. Logo on the back. Yeah, I love that scribing. That is actually done very nicely. So, alrighty. So I'll go through and do some close-ups here for you, so you can see the detail up close. But otherwise, this is going to be a really fun kit, something different. Get a chance to use some of the metal paints and so forth, and some metallics. I will hopefully do some videos on painting that when I get to that stage. So, anyways, that is it for the new kit review. And next up, we are going to actually take a detour. We usually have the section called Kit Rewind, which is an old kit that we review, but I don't have anything, unfortunately, to show that's really old. I have some that are 20 years old, but I try to do ones that are pre-internet type thing. So I'm going to actually change it up, and we're going to go to model techniques. So that will be up next. Okay, MouseWorks fans, time for a new section on the news program called Modeling Techniques, and for this week I'm going to show how to cut some brass tubing. It sounds pretty simple, but it's actually, a lot of people do not have the tools or know how to actually cut brass tubing really super smooth and make it work for their models. Brass is a little bit more difficult to glue because you have to use super glue, but I'll show you how to actually get the tubing cut real super fine. So the first thing, we're going to go from big to small, and for this one I'm going to use a chop saw, and this I got off of Amazon. A few different companies that make it, run about 70-80 bucks, and it comes with a toothed wheel. You can get a real fine one for super fine cutoffs, but this actually will, even though it's got teeth on it, it'll actually cut through brass tubing. You just have to go very slow. You have to make sure you wear your safety goggles, and I will show you how it works. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to take our piece of brass tubing here, and we will mark basically where we want the cut to be. So for example, I will just mark that we want, say, that little piece off there. So what I'll do, make some room here so I can get to it. It's got a little clamp that will hold it, and the clamp actually has a notch out in it to hold round stock, which is really nice. That way it doesn't slide around or turn. It'll keep it straight and level. So we'll tighten it in there. And like I said, that notch keeps it perfectly level. You can also cut a angle if you want to. You can actually turn this knob here. Let's loosen this, and we can pivot how far we want the metal to actually be cut at an angle, so you can actually do different angles like that. So let's try a cut just like that, just for fun. Alright, so I'm going to bring down the saw without power, and then I'm going to line up where my pencil mark is, because it is off from where this piece is here. So we would line that up with where we want it. Let's give it a little more angle here. Okay, make sure everything is tight. Get on your safety goggles, and it does have a safety thing that makes it so you can't drop it without actually pushing the button. So we will start it up here, and we're going to go really slow and just kind of take a bite out of it at a time. And you can see, this guy here. A little bit at a time, that way it doesn't break the tooth and doesn't overheat it. Make sure it's shut off. Alright. So now we have our cut off piece of tubing. Let's disconnect the machine here. Okay. And you'll have a little bit of cut metal there. The slower you go, the less of this you'll have. So what you're going to want to do is take your piece of sandpaper, and okay, so we're just going to sand off that little burr. It's a little bit sharp, so be careful. Okay, so now we've got a really smooth edge, and what we're going to do is we're going to actually take our X-Acto knife and cut out. There's actually a little bit of a burr inside, so we'll just do that with sandpaper as well. And then I'm going to take a piece of sandpaper and I'm going to sand out the outside of it, or you can actually just use your sanding stick here and get rid of that little edge that's there. Alright, and so there we go. We've got a really super smooth cut, and one that you can do at an angle and Helps out with any type of rocket launchers or tubes of any kind, exhausts, things like that. So, and off to the next way to cut. Okay, the next way to cut is to actually have a aluminum channel that has different angles on it, and a razor saw with really fine teeth. That's the best thing to use. One that's deep enough to go all the way to the bottom. You can hold the tubing with your hand or get a clamp to hold it tight, but usually you don't need a whole lot of pressure to hold it in place. When you cut it, the trick is that you just want the saw to do the cutting. That way you don't, the piece doesn't move. And make sure it's a newer saw, because these do wear out. Okay, and this puts a nice right angle cut. Sometimes it's a little hard to hold, as you can see. Again, taking my sanding stick and cleaning off the end. Okay, cleaning out the inside of it. And cleaning out the outside of it. And there we have that cut there. Again, a simple way to do it on larger pieces. And so next we will start working on a couple other ways to cut. Okay, the third way to cut is K&S Metals makes this little tubing cutter. Looks just like the big ones that the plumbers use, and basically you open it up to the size of the bar that you're using. It only can do a right angle cut, and you tighten it up. It's got a little rolling wheel in there, so you tighten it up, not real tight, but just tight enough that you can actually roll it in there without it moving. It'll actually make a score. See if you can see it there. It'll actually make a score, and we'll get a little tighter shot here for you. There we go. Okay, so you'll just keep rolling that, and then once you get a good score going, you'll actually do a little bit of a tightening, and then roll again, and that way it's got a spring mechanism in there that puts pressure on that cutter, and this way it doesn't pinch the tubing, and you'll just continually pressure it. If you put too much tightness on it, first of all, it's going to be hard to move to rotate the piece, and also again it'll pinch the tubing. So, and these do get worn out, but they're not very expensive to buy. So if it starts taking forever to cut one out, just go out and buy a new one. And you'll actually hear it start to crack through the tubing. It's a little longer process than that electric thing I had. You'll feel it get easier and easier as it starts to cut through. There we go. And then it cuts clean. Now the only disadvantage of this is it does leave a bevel, because the cutter is actually a angled bevel like that. So sometimes that actually looks really nice for a gun barrel or something, but if not, just give it a little sand. And a little cut from the inside. Sand on the outside. Okay. And we have another way to cut. A little bit safer than using any of the cutting tools, especially for youngsters. That's a good way that they can start to cut it. It does work on hard plastics as well, but it does mush them a little bit more. So off to the next technique. Okay, for this technique, this is for smaller tubing. We can actually go way down to some tubing like this size here. Actually, we'll use that. Give you an idea how much smaller it is than the tubing we were using. There we go. So this, unfortunately, if you use that roller, this one here does not work very well. Using the tooth saw, sometimes it'll pull it and bend it because it's going to bend a lot easier. And the cutoff wheel, sometimes it'll leave enough of a burr that it's going to be really hard to get it straight again. So to actually get a straight cut out of this, we will mark where we want it. And let's see here. Basically, I'm going to take an X-Acto or a hobby knife with an extremely sharp blade, brand new blade. And you want to have it on something cushy, something like paper towel like this. That way it gives you a little bit of a cushion to roll it on. I'm trying to do it on a smooth surface. This will tend to turn on you and you won't get a straight cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find that area where I want to cut. Try to get as perpendicular as I can, and then I'll just roll it. And I'll just go back and forth, usually on the base of the knife. That's where you got the most power. Again, trying to keep it perpendicular. And this will do kind of the same thing that cutter, the pressure cutter does, that K&S one. It'll make a groove and then it'll keep working on the groove. And it'll eventually just snap its way through. There we go. Okay. And the longer you take, the smoother the cut as you roll it. The harder you press, the more damage you can do to it. And a little sanding, a little cutout. Which is a little more difficult. And then sanding on the sides. And there you have a perfect cut for machine gun barrels or what have you. And you can thin that out by carving more and more. They do also make thin wall brass from K&S. So I hope that helps. Some basic tutorials on getting some brass tubing cut. And now up next, we will have the new gear. Alrighty, Werx fans, welcome to New Gear, the chapter of the news program where we try to introduce you to some new gizmo or something that's out there on the market that'll help you with your model building. And for this week, we've got kind of an odd one, but it's very important on certain things. What this is I found this at a Walmart. I believe a couple other places, Targets and so forth, have these. What it is it's a miniature fan, and it's of course for just keeping yourself cool on your desk and so forth. But what I found is it's really super handy for actually if you're doing any kind of soldering, you definitely don't want to be breathing in those solder fumes. So they usually have fans that will suck in the fumes and go through a filter, but you just want to get them away from you. So what this thing, mainly I bought it for, is when I'm soldering, I can actually, the back of it here actually gives you a stand. And this can basically be setting on the side of your desk and will crosswise blow all the smoke away from your face and away from your eyes too, because it does burn. So real handy for that. Also, if you are using any kind of solvent, glues, or paint or putty for that matter, that are really noxious to you, and you have an open window but the window is far away and you want to just get it from, just stop breathing in because it's giving you a headache, this will circulate the air and get it going. It doesn't blow so hard that it'll blow things off your table. It does have a battery system in it, 4 AA's, or it does have an AC unit or AC plug that you can buy an AC plug for it. so you don't have to waste the batteries. I don't know exactly how long this lasts on those batteries. I haven't tested it that long, but it does give you a little bit good air. You can kind of see, if I can get you to see how, there we go. It also it has the back open, so you can actually have it suck out the fumes if you want to, or just blow them across, like I said, whatever you're doing. Also, if you are like I am and you live in the heat, this is going to come in really handy when you're model building and it's 105 degrees. So anyways, really cheap. These things were under 20 bucks. I think I got mine for about 10 bucks, somewhere around that. They do go on sale every so often, but it is an extremely handy thing to have, something different for your arsenal of gear. So again, I want to thank everybody for watching the show. Please tell everybody you know about the show. Try to get more viewers, and be sure to subscribe so you get notifications. Hit that bell icon so you can get notifications of my new shows and new information. And of course, this is how I sponsor the channel and keep the channel going. I'm not currently sponsored by anybody, any manufacturers or anything, but they are welcome to send me what they want if they want to get a review on it. So basically, I am appreciative if you buy some of the stuff on the mouseworks.com channel, some modeling tools and so forth. These are my sanding sticks, but as always, I appreciate the support in buying some of these materials and tools, and we'll keep the channel going. So get out there and keep on building.